So, Daniel Robinson is who I'm going to be talking about today. I recently came across his story and I'm concerned about it. It's very vague considering the additional details, and I want to see what you think about it. And if you think this is good information, then pass it along. It's important to help educate each other as well as do our part as humans. So the last known whereabouts of this person was on a crossover highway. I Googled the information via maps and went and kind of saw the surrounding areas. The crossover portions of the road I am identifying right now. I apologize. It's on my notes. Let's see. So Isaiah Robinson's last known whereabouts were Cactus Road and Sun Valley Parkway. Well, Cactus Road is actually like three different roads. There's Trellis Parkway and Sidewinder Road that merge into this road, and Cactus Parkway kind of continues. Now, I understand that in the cases that are like if you had to call someone or the situation, you would do the closest adjoining roads to you to mark that. But it still doesn't really give us a clear reality of where specifically he was based off the information that they've released. Now, it's been widely reported that he's a geologist. However, he's actually what they call a hydrogeologist, which is someone who analyzes water resources in the aspect of quantity and water quality, and they study the water cycles, such as like they model and predict floods, advise, manage, or reduce the flood risk. And they also do like with the flood prediction and management and environmental protection, human activities, pollution, um, deforestation, and I'm not saying that word correctly, but basically in that specific word, it's like what's happening to the surrounding areas, such as in the forests and things like that, which makes sense for the area because there is a ton of forests around there. The Tonto National Forest, there's not pulling it out this way, but I'm just trying to give the people the idea of the terrain. You're not just looking at the desert. You've got the Mojave over, this way from you. You've got the Tonto National Forest. You have the national several reservations, wildlife refuges. Rex, I keep saying refugees, refuge. You have these places in this area that they say that they have gone a 70-mile radius around. And the question is where, right? They were treating it as, that 48 hours thing that you have to wait. And then they went about their business. But as far as I can tell, there's no clear statement of when they actually started doing the helicopters and the drones, the UTVs, and things like that. However, the thing that I noticed is there is a farm in that vicinity, which potentially could be the location that they found the vehicle. That has not been posted in the news. The location of the farm, which makes sense because you don't want people just showing up on somebody's property. One, that's extremely dangerous. And when they found the vehicle, it was approximately 30 days later. And that farmer specifically said that he was there 2 days prior and that vehicle was not there. And I'm going to tell you right now, farmers don't want any crap from anyone. They already deal with enough stuff, and whatever he's farming would potentially be very legal in that area, and anything else that goes on in that vicinity. There are several farms, though. There are several farms in a nearby area. So you're imagining, like I'm imagining the 4-mile radius that they found the clothing in, they found his work clothing, but they found all of his like effects, such as his shirt he was wearing, his jeans, his brown boots. And I think it's weird that they're emphasizing geologist over and over again when really he was definitely working as a hydrologist. And it really kind of changes the view line and what he was actually examining and really doing out there. And why was the work clothes that many miles from his clothing? And how is it that the phone, once it was turned on, it was turned off in that same location when that vehicle wasn't there? There are the questions. And the only reason anyone has this information is because the family hired a private investigator who has been widely broadcasted on the news, which I find interesting as well. However, his two things is private investigator, as well as he is someone who reenacts scenes. And he was able to find out that, and I want to get the specifics, so I'm looking for the number, but I believe it was 47 times that the car was being started. And now they did find the keys right there with his original clothing. So that feature on that vehicle, you can remote start it. That leaves me a little curious. You can hands-free call on that vehicle, Bluetooth. So it's very possible somewhere, depending on how tech savvy he was, that he had stuff that pinned where he was. Why don't we have that information if you've been able to get into the phone? Why has that not been spoken about? They have found two different sets of remains, not full remains of people, but different parts. They have been able to identify that they are not of the same as the gentleman, Daniel Robinson. However, another thing I found curious is why aren't they investigating how those got out there in their radius? And how is it that you're getting on these reservations, being able to search that area as well? I mean, that leaves it curious too. Not saying anything about the indigenous peoples whatsoever on a negative, but the curious thought is, how did you get out there? Who did you talk to?